Guys, so this brown stuff is some kind of gunk that has gotten on the floor of the freezer here, and I was trying to clean it up yesterday, and I was scrubbing pretty hard with the rag and it wasn't coming off, which you can see. So I'm going to do something that I've been doing nowadays. I'm going to squeeze out a little dishwashing liquid on it and then just leave it for some minutes, and usually that's going to soften up that gunk. So I'm putting it on the spots where you see the brown gunk, and I'm going to let it sit a while, and usually that'll soften it up. It's possible that if I scrub really, really hard at this with just the rag, it would come up. But I kind of don't want to do that because maybe that's pushing down on the floor of the freezer too hard, and it might, loosen it or make it wobbly. But this way, I think it's going to soften it up. Usually, this will soften up some kind of gunk that's gotten on a surface, and like on an oven, and you'll be able to much more easily get it off. Let's see, I don't know, did I get it? I think I missed that end of the stain, the gunk there. I may have missed a little gunk. It's kind of hard to hold the camera, but we'll just leave that, and then we'll come back in a while and try to clean it off and see if the soap softened it. It may not have softened enough to get it all off, in which case I would actually do it all again, but it may get it all off. Let's just turn this off and see what happens. Okay guys, this is 15 minutes later. Let's just see if this soap stain on this gunk has softened it enough to clean it off. I think it probably has, because the gunk doesn't look as dark a brown, but let's just see. Well, that one's starting to come off. It's smaller than it was. But that gunk's pretty powerful on there. That one you can see is smearing a little bit because it's softer. Probably I'm going to have to do this soap again. That one's starting to smear a little. So those are kind of coming off. Not maybe as good as I had hoped for the video, but somewhat. It's kind of hard to do this while holding the camera with one hand. So now the thing to do would be to go rinse the rag and put some more soap. So what I'll probably do, well, I do think it's much less than it was. What I'll probably do is turn this off, put some more soap, and leave it again, and then come back again. But I don't think there's as many dark blotches as there were. Okay guys, so I'm back. This soap again has been on here a while, and we're going to see if this softened this up anymore. This was pretty hard gunk. I'm going to tell you that this, normally I've used this on gunk that I couldn't get up on the kitchen counter next to the sink with just the rag, and there just one application of soap will do it. Here, okay, that stain just left. Let's see what this guy's doing. Well, that's reduced. And this guy, this guy at the back is breaking up pretty well. That guy's going. That guy's almost gone. Let's see here. Well, they are much less than when we started. The stuff in that groove is gone now. That's just soap on there. This one is almost gone. The worst one is that one in that left corner. That's much less than it started as. So you sort of get that this works. And if I put soap on these again, probably one more application would get rid of them entirely. But when I thought about it again, I'm kind of hesitating now to use the soap ID here because there's a little gap right there, and the soap might ooze into that gap. I mean, and I don't know where it'll go. I mean, it's probably okay and it won't cause any harm, but I'm going to think about this before I put that last application of soap. But most places you get gunk like this, there's no problem. This idea really will work, to just leave the soap on there. I don't know, it's probably the lye in the soap that loosens stuff and dissolves stuff. It makes it a lot easier. You don't have to bust your hand scouring and pushing it hard at the stain. It would have been nice to really finish this for you, but at least you can see the idea. You can see that it works. So maybe I'll decide after I turn this off whether to continue. If I get it totally clean, I'll probably film that for you. So guys, this is how it did end up getting cleaned. What I decided to do, so for example, there was a blotch, kind of a round blotch here. I took that liquid soap and I just put a drop at the front of the blotch, the side towards me. I didn't want it to ooze into this gap, so I thought I just put a drop, enough to soften it at the front, and kind of go drop by drop that way. But when I put that drop, it looks like it spread enough that I could get those final blotches off without getting soap into this gap. There still is a little stuff here. I don't know what I'm going to do there. I might be able to get like something thin, like a needle or a fingernail file, and kind of scrape it out. But anyway, the way I'm telling you, it really does work. I don't know, if I were to do this again, I might from the very beginning do it where I just put a drop or two at the very front of the blotch. That way you have a lot of more control. It's not going to ooze back towards the gap. But it does ooze, it does creep a little bit. Fluids do creep along things. So it would soften kind of some of that blotch. And it'd be an easy job. These were hard. These have probably been in there a long time, and of course I guess they would have been kind of frozen too. So they've dried and hardened. But the method still works, as you can see. One thing is that the last time I put that liquid, I washed it, I scrubbed at it with a rag and it came off, but I also scratched it a bit with my fingernail. I could have done that from the get-go. Maybe that would have helped. I just did the pure rag for this video. But scratching things sometimes will get them off. So that's an option. Another option is, instead of using the dishwashing liquid, I have occasionally used actually whipping cream, fluid whipping cream. I don't know if you've ever bought that in stores. It's the same kind you would pour in your coffee when you put cream in your coffee. You could put a little, and that would probably soften something like this too. Is it better than soap? I don't know. I tend to trust cream. It's like, well, that's a whole nother topic for me. Fluid dairy products for me were made by a mother's body. Of course, in this case, it's a mother cow, but it's still a mother's body. And the mother's body has really evolved to make a great harmless substance and useful substance. So it might be that if I had used cream instead of soap, I wouldn't have worried as much about the cream getting in this gap. But at any rate, it's done. And the moment the freezer is working, you can probably hear it. I can certainly feel it as I stand here making the video. So far at least, if soap got into that gap onto some part of the mechanism, it hasn't damaged it. If soap did get into the gap, if it doesn't, I would think that if it doesn't damage it at first, it probably won't, because I think the soap dries out pretty quickly. In this case, it might even freeze. And when it's dried out and freezes, it really is less likely to ooze or creep anywhere and do damage. So if you ever have to do this with with something with a gap like this, there are some complications. It probably has worked out okay, but usually when you might be trying to clean up some dried gunk on a surface where there's no complications, just put that liquid soap on there and leave it for 10-15 minutes, and it usually will soften it up. If you're doing it on a countertop or something, it probably hasn't been drying there for years like this freezer, so it should come up with one application. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope it's useful.